This is CNN Breaking News.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Frederica Whitfield from Washington, D.C. Horrible, sad, tragic news to pass on to you. The world has lost a great one. Five-time NBA champion Kobe Bryant of the L.A. Lakers at the age of 41 years old. Confirmation now that he was among five who have died from a helicopter crash earlier today in Southern California, in Calabasas, California, not far from Malibu. The circumstances of the crash are unclear, but we did hear from an official earlier who said that some bikers saw an aircraft in distress and then saw this aircraft go down. Authorities were called, and of course you're seeing pictures now of still the smoldering debris, and just moments ago confirmation that Kobe Bryant was among those five on board. Our own reporting is such that that was his personal helicopter. I want to bring in now Omar Jimenez, also soon to join us, CNN sports analyst Christine Brennan, as well as Brian Stelter. So, Omar, what are you hearing right now about the circumstances? We heard from an official earlier who said it was unclear, the origin of this flight and its destination. Are we learning anything more?
That's what we're trying to piece through at the moment. We know that this helicopter went down around 1 o'clock Eastern time in the afternoon in Southern California. You mentioned in the Calabasas region near Malibu. 5 people confirmed on that helicopter, and all 5 of them we have heard from fire officials are now dead, including, as sources confirmed to CNN, 41-year-old Kobe Bryant. We are still working to find out the identity of the other 4 people on that helicopter, but we know just over the years we have seen Kobe Bryant has used helicopters to frequently travel across the Los Angeles area, so it is likely that the people that were in that helicopter he knew pretty closely, so we are trying to confirm those details. And we know that even just last night, Kobe Bryant has obviously been in the headlines even well after his retirement. But it was last night that LeBron James had just passed Kobe Bryant for the third all-time scorer in the NBA. And I want to read you the final tweet that Kobe Bryant put up, obviously before this absolutely tragic crash that we are following right now. Continuing to move the game forward at King James. Much respect, my brother, and the hashtag of the total points. This was someone that continually was moving the game forward himself, someone that was an inspiration to not just the players around the NBA, but of course, countless others across the world. These are absolutely tragic details. And even on a personal note, as someone who grew up playing basketball, getting all the way up to the Big Ten level, the Mamba mentality that he cemented and made his signature of that hard work ethic is something that's always been instilled within me, always instilled within countless other basketball players across the world. And obviously this is devastating news, not just because of Kobe Bryant, but also the others that are on board as well. We're going to continue to follow it on our end, and we are pushing for more details that we are trying to confirm right now. And once we get those, I'll be sure to get them to you as quickly as possible, Fred.
And Omar, while you are reporting on it, you've also just revealed, you're a big fan. We've all been big fans of, Kobe Bryant, watching him, and talk to me, since you were a college player, looking at him from afar. And he was someone who is a testament to from going from high school as a player into the NBA and then sticking with this one team for nearly, his entire 20-year, professional career. Talk to me about what you, as a young player, admiring him, what it was that you admired in this basketball great of Kobe Bryant.
I think you could just see the passion that he brought to the game and the level of dedication that he brought to the game that you really weren't seeing in a lot of other places, across the NBA, certainly just across the world in any other industry. And so to watch someone like that, the attention to detail that he had with every single move that he was taking, if he missed a certain shot, he would go back in the gym at all hours of the night and put up thousands of that same type shot just to make sure he wouldn't miss it that next time. And one of the things that even sticks out to me, even to this day, was his last game in the NBA, the last game he ever played against the Utah Jazz. I remember I had to be up in at work, as we usually are, at 3 o'clock in the morning, and this was a West Coast game that went all the way up until 1 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't go to bed because Kobe Bryant was on his way to a 60-point performance in his final game. And I remember watching that, and I almost have a tear right now thinking about it. But watching that game, and just to see a career like that come full circle in a way, for someone that has inspired so many people, including myself, I think I, among so many others, are in shock seeing the news today. And I just pray for his family. I can't imagine how difficult it is for them. And I just know moving forward, this is going to be an investigation that brings out even more tragic details for an already tragic story, Fred.
No, Omar, thank you so much. That's so touching. It's hitting everybody. You are not alone, believe me. And again, Kobe Bryant, father of 4 young girls, his wife, Vanessa. Again, we don't know all of the people on board this helicopter. We just have confirmation now that Kobe Bryant among them. CNN's Brian Stelter and CNN sports analyst Christine Brennan, sports anchor Don Riddell, all with me now reflecting on this NBA great, and really a great on so many levels because, Brian, he was a versatile individual. Of course, it was the NBA playing for the Lakers. That's what got, the world's attention. But at the same time, he branched out. I mean, just like his tweet, last night, or the tweet from, LeBron James. I mean, this is an individual who saw looking forward, branching out. He had children's books. He had, animated projects, television projects, film projects to help young people, the next generation, learn, grow, reach their best, just like he had that opportunity.
He even won an Academy Award a couple of years ago, an Academy Award for Best Animated Short back in 2018 for a film he worked on called Dear Basketball. And I think partly his interest in helping the next generation stemmed from his 4 daughters, from his 4 children, all of whom are still children. One of them, Capri, was born just last June, so still an infant. His other children, some of them have shown a lot of interest in basketball. Gianna, who's in high school. She's an emerging basketball star in her own right. She was recently seen at a game with her dad, learning how the sport is played. Looked like he was tutoring her in a couple of different ways, and that makes this loss all the more heartbreaking. Kobe was married to Vanessa for almost 20 years, and as I mentioned earlier, he would commute back and forth in this helicopter that he owned. One of the frightening questions right now is who else was on this helicopter when he was traveling this morning. So it would have been about 10 a.m. local time there in Southern California. It seems like he was heading north, but we don't know to where, and we don't know who was with him.
Hey, so Brian, on that he would customarily travel, in his own chopper there. Is it your understanding that he would also pilot it, or he had another pilot? He had a pilot, and he as a passenger. Yeah,
my best understanding is that he had a pilot that would be taking him to and from. Back when he was playing for the Lakers, he said that the helicopter helped him stay in great form. Otherwise he'd have to take a 2-hour-long drive, and his body would get all tight before the games. So he viewed it as a tool for his performance playing for the Lakers. We don't know anything more, as was mentioned about this helicopter and who else was on board. That we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, Brian, hold it right there. Our Nick Watt is there in the area of Calabasas where, again, we are still seeing smoldering, debris near where that chopper went down. Nick, what are you learning?
Well, so far authorities are pretty tight-lipped as to what might have been the cause of this accident. They say they are very early in the investigation, but they did get reports from people who were cycling in the area that a helicopter was in distress. And Greg, if you can push in, you can see where that helicopter hit the side of that hill. We are just slightly inland from Malibu in Calabasas. You can see the smoke there. We're told that the impact did ignite a small brush fire in the area, but we expect within the next few hours to get more details of exactly why this happened. Now, visibility is a possibility. That was a question that was raised. Authorities again saying too early to tell, but as you can see, it's not a clear blue day here in Southern California today, but there was no rain. It is, though, not fantastic visibility. We hope to hear more. And listen, the other thing that's happening right now is the reaction to this. Kobe Bryant in Los Angeles was perhaps the archetypal athlete and superstar. He transcended his sport. He was of this city. And the reaction so far has been a loss for words, really. I mean, around here we've seen people shedding tears, people just looking up at the crash site, not really talking. And, you know, I was listening to KNX radio on the way over here, and one local sportscaster said, this is one of those moments like, where were you when JFK died? This is one of those moments. Where were you when you heard about Kobe? We're also getting some reaction online from Scottie Pippen. I'm stunned. Words can't even come close to describing it. Paul Pierce, this is not real right now. JJ Watt, can't be true. Kevin Love, please no. Please, God, no. So this city, which was Kobe Bryant's home, he played here for 20 years, he was of Los Angeles, real shock right now. But so far, not that many answers as to why and how this happened. Back to you.
Oh my gosh, yeah, this feeling of disbelief. I think everyone is feeling it. It's just, I know, people are hearing it for the first time, and it has been confirmed by authorities, but it's still so hard to believe. This young man, 41-year-old, who made such an impact on the NBA, such a huge impact on the LA Lakers, on the city of Los Angeles, as you said, Nick, sending, sports. Being a part of that community there. I hope that you do get an opportunity to talk to a number of those people who have come out that we just saw, the camera pan over, how many people have come out who are fans, who are shedding tears. Now, earlier we heard from officials, they said still unclear the origin of the chopper flight, its destination, that yes, there was some fog, but unclear whether visibility was indeed, a factor. Have authorities taken, this investigation any further to say they have gleaned anything with any certainty from the crash site thus far?
They have not. I mean, the FAA has come out to confirm the type of helicopter, and that is pretty much it. So far from authorities, all we've really been hearing about is their emergency response to this event and the fact that this brush fire was sparked. We are expecting to hear from authorities again within a couple of hours. But listen, the how and the why is really secondary here. The headline is what has happened, that Kobe Bryant, this great of the game, this great of American culture, this great of Los Angeles, has perished on this hillside here in Calabasas.
All right. Nick Watt, thank you so much. Keep us posted. Again, tragic news. The world has lost a great NBA great, Kobe Bryant, among 5 who perished in this helicopter crash there in Southern California. We'll have more right after this.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Welcome back. I'm Frederica Whitfield in Washington, D.C. A terribly sad news to report to you. 41-year-old Kobe Bryant has been killed in a helicopter crash in Southern California. 4 others on that helicopter also died in this crash just outside of Malibu. Most recently, CNN had a chance to sit down and talk with Kobe Bryant. It was with Andy Scholes in sports, and he was in Los Angeles just 11 days ago at a season launch event for Major League Soccer. Let's listen in to that interview.
You were one of the early investors into Body Armor. It's grown so much over the years. How cool is it now to be a partner with Major League Soccer?
It's crazy, man, because when we first started the company, it was such a small company. We had this vision of doing these big things and servicing the athletes and educating them on nutrition and hydration. And to find ourselves here now in partnership with MLS, and MLS is, they've taken off too. This is coming up on 25 years now. And the game has done nothing but grow, and so to have this relationship together is we look forward to doing some big things.
I know you're a big Barcelona fan. How do you think they're going to fare, and where do you think Messi ranks in terms of best athletes in the world right now?
Well, I think he's one of the best athletes of all time. His tenacity, the intelligence with which he plays, as well as the skill, just puts him head and shoulders above the rest. Now Cristiano is right there with him. But I think Barcelona right now, going through their transition period, changing manager, there's a lot of questions to be answered, but I think they'll figure it out.
The NBA fans love to debate, which team from which era was better. Shaq recently weighed in saying that he absolutely thinks you and him would have beaten this current Lakers team with LeBron and Anthony Davis. What's your take on that hypothetical matchup?
I don't weigh in on hypotheticals. Because as a competitor, there's nothing you can do about them. You can't debate yourself to winning something, right? That was the beauty about sports, is you compete, you either win or you lose. In the debate culture, there's never a clear winner,
right.
But it's fun to hear.
You recently said your daughter Gigi got you back into watching a lot of NBA. You've taken her to a bunch of games this year, sitting courtside with her. As you watch games with her and coach her through her basketball journey, I wanted to get your take on if you think a woman could ever play in the NBA one day.
Play in the NBA, I think there are a couple players that can play in the NBA right now, honestly. I mean, there's a lot of players that have a lot of skill that can do it. Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore, Ella Deladon. I mean, there's a lot of great players out there, so they could most certainly keep up with them.
All right, an interview with our Andy Schultz just 11 days ago of NBA star Kobe Bryant. Of course, this news hitting everyone hard that Kobe Bryant was among 5 in a helicopter that went down in Calabasas, California, just outside of Malibu earlier today. This 5-time NBA champion, 2-time MVP player. He was an NBA player. He was a mentor, a real leader involved in books, movies, television productions, already very much sorely missed. It has also been reported by officials there that Kobe Bryant and 4 others were on a Sikorsky S-76 helicopter. We heard from our Brian Stelter earlier that this is indeed the helicopter that Kobe Bryant customarily would travel in the Los Angeles County, even when he was a player, would arrive at the NBA games at the Staples Center in his own helicopter. He found it to be the more relaxing route prior to a game. We want to find out more now about this type of helicopter, this Sikorsky S-76. Joining me right now, Jacob Benkovsky, a helicopter pilot. He flies this type of aircraft, a Sikorsky S-76, the same chopper that Kobe Bryant was in. And so I'm wondering if you can tell me, as you look at this debris field, if you have an opportunity to see a monitor right now and see, we're looking at what appears to be a portion of the tail and the scattering of debris in at least this image here, and the decimation of a lot of other debris. What are you seeing in this? What are you reading from this?
So based on the images, I can't confirm whether or not this was mechanical error or weather-related error, but based on some of the reports that we're getting, it seems like the weather was foggy. It seems like the weather conditions were not ideal for helicopter flight, and leaning a lot more towards a weather-related incident.
What do you know about this aircraft? How many persons can it hold? Is this one customarily used for, short distances, long distances? What can you tell me?
So the S-76 is similar to the helicopter I have experience with, which is the S-70. This helicopter usually carries a crew of 13. It could be customized to carry as many, much less than that if certain features are added. This is probably one of the most reliable helicopters out there. It is a very good helicopter. Having said that, when weather is involved, everything goes out the window, and there's no predictability on whether or not a safe flight can be had.
Mm-hmm. And that is just the case for any helicopter or aircraft, or are you saying that is a particular thing to keep in mind with this type of helicopter?
No, it is definitely an issue with any type of aircraft whatsoever, plane, helicopter, anything that's in the air. Once weather, especially visibility, which seems to be the most commonly reported cause for this accident as of right now, when visibility is decreased, what happens is pilots usually enter something called IFR mode, which is instrument flight rules mode, which happens when IMC happens, instrument meteorological conditions. That is basically a mode where you see nothing outside and you have to rely on the instruments in the helicopter. Imagine this as driving on the road, and everything outside becomes dark, and you have to rely only on your GPS and your speedometer. When you're flying in this type of mode, it's a lot more difficult than flying outside and seeing everything around you, because you have to rely on maps, you have to rely on altimeters, which tell you the altitude, and there are certain obstacles that are harder to avoid because you cannot see outside. Having said that, this is probably one of the most common modes that aviation accidents occur in.
All right, Jacob, Ben Kopsky, thank you so much. I want to bring in Mary Schiavo, CNN transportation analyst and former inspector general for the Department of Transportation. As you look at this debris field and you see what appear to be at least a couple of very large chunks of the aircraft, at least I'm seeing from my naked eye, two very large chunks, and then you see a very scattered debris field. How do you examine this from afar? What do you see from this image?
Well, from this image, I do what I always do is go back to the flight radar first of all, and then consider other crashes that I've worked on. And the flight radar gives us a tremendous amount of evidence. This plane was over downtown Los Angeles, and for those of us who have lived in LA, a highly populated area. It was at an altitude of around 2,300 feet, made several circles around downtown, kind of just north of very populated Los Angeles, and then it headed out to Calabasas as it was losing altitude, which suggests to me, and Calabasas is not very populated. There are a lot of parks there, walking trails, mountains, etc. It almost looks to me, now this is a big guess, but because it circled many times, a tight circle over downtown LA and started losing altitude, I think this plane got in mechanical problems over downtown LA, and the pilot was trying to find a place to put it down or to save an awful lot of lives.
And so, Mary, you know this, or you've surmised this because you have had access to the flight pattern. You're able to see. Tell me what you were able to look at and why that's incremental as you look at investigations all the time. Why you look at the origin of its takeoff and the pattern to discern what possibly could have happened.
Well, when you're looking to discern between a weather problem or a mechanical problem, if you have to look at what the plane itself was doing. And when the plane is making a lot of tight circles where it was intended to head, and then it heads out over an unpopulated area, sometimes, for example, I've worked several crashes where the pilots tried to go to areas that weren't so populated if they thought they could get the aircraft down, or they were concerned that they were getting into a situation where they couldn't control the plane. And so that gives us clues. And I looked at flight radar, I looked at the altitude, I looked at the path of the plane, and I looked at these circles. And people might be able to get an idea of what this helicopter is like by telling them that it's similar to the Black Hawk. The Black Hawk helicopter that's used worldwide by military operations everywhere. It's a pretty heavy-duty aircraft. Yes, it has had, crashes in the past, of course, but they've been widely variant on the causes, and many of them were modified, including top-secret modifications by the United States military. This plane is, of course, not, or aircraft is not among them, but it is along the line of a Black Hawk helicopter.
Mm-hmm. Hey, so Mary, perhaps you were listening to my conversation with Jacob Benkovsky, who's also a pilot who's familiar with, flying this kind of Sikorsky chopper, and he talked about, the weather and fog. Right. Now talk to me about, fog is measured differently for an aircraft versus a helicopter. Helicopter, right, you can fly lower for a longer period of time. But talk to me about the calculus for a pilot of a helicopter to determine whether it's too foggy, it's just foggy enough, the potential perils or dangers that may be associated with fog for a helicopter versus an airplane.
Well, a helicopter, particularly operating over Los Angeles, you have to have enough space. You have to be able to see all the buildings. Obviously, there are tremendous navigation programs where you don't have to rely on the look out the window and see method, if you will, visual flight rules, VFR. But here, of course, it depends what the fog layer was over Los Angeles. So it's possible they were circling these very tight circles over just north of downtown LA to where they were going to land, and they could not do it because of the fog. But in this case, looking at the wreckage, it does not look like what we had what's called a CFIT, a controlled flight into terrain, where you can't see because of the fog and you hit an obstacle, you hit a mountain, you hit a hill, you hit a TV tower. It does not look like a CFIT accident. It looks to me like the helicopter was in trouble and went down because it was losing altitude.
All right, transportation analyst Mary Schiavo, thank you so much. As we hear from the experts on, studying a crash site, and we're looking at the smoldering debris from this helicopter that crashed into this hillside in Calabasas, California. We cannot forget that among those on board, 5 people killed in this helicopter crash, among them NBA legend Kobe Bryant at the age of 41. Back with me now, Don Riddell, Christine Brennan, Brian Stelter. And, Don, we heard, from our Nick Watt earlier. He read the tweets coming from people from Scottie Pippen to J.J. Watt, NBA to the NFL. And, there are people who have gathered who were fans of Kobe Bryant, everyone being hit hard, everyone feeling like disbelief. This cannot be. Talk to me about the reaction that you've seen from the sports world and beyond.
Yeah, Frederica, I think you can probably relate to this. Our timelines on our social media feeds these days are just consumed with what's going on in Washington, D.C. and the political situation in this country. My timeline is just consumed now with news and reaction to Kobe Bryant. As we've been saying over the last half hour or so here on CNN, just a complete state of shock. So many people just do not want to believe it. Of course, we're getting reaction from the basketball world, the American sports world, but the international sports world too. We've had reaction from the soccer clubs in Europe, Paris Saint-Germain and AC Milan. Reaction from the world of tennis. Of course, the Australian Open is happening in Melbourne right now. They're just getting to start play in the second week down under in Australia today. Interestingly enough, not that long ago, one of the world's top tennis players, Novak Djokovic, was describing how he feels about Kobe Bryant. This, of course, before we knew the news today, but Djokovic saying he considers Kobe Bryant to be a mentor. Djokovic, at various stages in his career, has struggled with injury and the mental problems that come with the pain and the anguish and the uncertainty of an injury. And he said that he had several conversations with Kobe Bryant, and he basically said, I love Kobe. Who doesn't? He's just an amazing guy and one of the best. And this is how so many basketball players, basketball fans, other athletes and other fans all around the world feel about Kobe Bryant. When he played the last of those 20 seasons for the LA Lakers in 2015-16, he knew that this was kind of going to be a farewell tour for him, visiting all the cities around the NBA teams in the country, and he did not want a fuss to be made. These are places that historically would have booed him, not because he was a bad player. They booed him because he was a great player and he was coming into town to mess with their team. And he said, I don't want a fuss. But it didn't really matter what he thought, because the league just felt compelled to honour him every single night with video reels, all the rest of it. And just last night we had LeBron James talking about him after he passed his record. We can talk about that later in the day. Back to you, Frederica.
And that is bittersweet. And, Christine, we've got about 15 seconds left. No one wants to put it this way, 41 years old, but what's his legacy?
Well, the legacy is a great basketball player, and then moving on into our culture in a huge way. And because of the way his life has now been lost, you think of athletes cut their lives cut short. Newt Rockne, a coach, and of course Payne Stewart. That adds to the legacy and the works of Payne.
Thank you so much, Christine Brennan, Brian Stelter, Don Riddell. I'm Frederica Whitfield. Our hearts go out to Kobe Bryant's family, his wife Vanessa, 4 children, as we all try to digest this very terribly sad news, the loss of a great one.